Welcome to the Empowerment Show, a weekly podcast call-in show that's here to enrich and educate the community of beautiful Northeast Pennsylvania and its surrounding areas. Hosted by Kendall Stevenson. With co-host Shaquana Terry. This week we welcome Judge Jamie Levy to the show.
The opinions expressed on the radio program by the hosts, co-hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Genesis Radio, www.genesisradio.com, Genesis Radio's owners, management, or affiliates.
Good evening, and thank you for tuning in again. My name is Kendall Stevenson. I'm the host of the Empowerment Show. My co-host is Shaquana Terry, and we are on GenesisRadio.com. If you want to give us a call, please give us a call at 888-304-4401. Usually we start the show off again with a moment of gratitude. So my deal is, again, with my young man. He's down in Florida, and he has prostate cancer, but he's making it through. He started working again, and he's an older gentleman, maturing, as my wife would say. And I like to give gratitude because he has a lot of good people around him and excellent support. Shaquana, always hitting it up.
Well, thank you for that. Always, that's a wonderful thing to be grateful for because good health is always something that we want to be grateful for. But I'm also grateful for life, love, happiness, health, all of that good stuff. And we have a wonderful guest on our show tonight, a handsome young man. Mm-hmm. His name is Jamie Levy. He's our magisterial judge here in Monroe County. So we're going to go ahead and see what he's thankful for as well.
I'm thankful for my family.
Yes.
Right on. That seems like a good thing to be thankful for.
Yeah.
Speaking about things to be thankful for, you're supposed to remind me of something, right?
Yeah, you're gonna be.
Yeah. I'm the breakfast guy.
Yeah.
In my house, I make the pancakes. The whole family comes over, grandkids come over. I'm the breakfast guy. I'm the guy you see. Now I went to this down in Broadheadsville. You ever go down to that area?
Yeah.
ShopRite. There's this girl in there. Her name is Tracy Rosenberg. Just trying to give her a shout out. This girl made me some pancakes. Knock my socks off, man. Yeah, they got the little cook and you go upstairs and you can eat. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. So I just wanted to give her a little shout out and tell her thank you for them pancakes.
And what was her name?
Her name is Tracy Rosenbrook.
There you go.
I remember her name because you know how I did it? I say the Rose in the Brook. So it's Rosenbrook. All right.
So that's our little play on recognizing our community people. Thank you so much, Tracy Rosenbrook, for taking care of my co-host over here. He enjoyed your pancakes because he said he's never eaten anybody else's pancakes but his own, but he loved yours. So we recognize you, we thank you, and I'm sure he thanks you as well.
And if anybody knows someone that should be recognized in your community, our community extends the entire Monroe County. So if you have someone that's in the community that you think maybe we should honor or at least give them their flowers while they're still here, give us a call. And that telephone number is 888-304-4401. You can also call in if you have a question for the judge. So we're going to get this started. Hello, Judge. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. So what's your title and what do you do?
My official title is Magisterial District Judge. We shorten it to District Judge because it's a little easier. Also the abbreviation MDJ. And I'm the judge in a district in Monroe County. There are 9 districts in Monroe County. I'm the judge of one.
Okay, so what do you exactly do as a judge?
Well, my district, it comprises of Middle Smithfield, and Delaware Watertown.
Right.
Middle Smithfield are part of East Stroudsburg. The the other part is East Stroudsburg Borough. There's another judge. Basically, in Middle Smithfield, and Delaware Water Gap, any traffic violation, any civil matter with a jurisdictional limit of $12,000 comes to my court. Any landlord-tenant dispute in the district comes to my court. We marry people in my court. We deal with zoning issues. Pretty much anything you can think of that occurs in the district, we deal with, other than matrimonial and domestic matters. We also do PFAs, protection from abuse orders. That's the only domestic things that we do, but that is limited to only emergency situations.
Any serious crimes? Have you had to deal with them?
We do. We have all serious crimes that occur in the district come to my court for arraignments, for preliminary hearings, for bail assignments. So everything. So if there's a serious crime in Middle Smithfield, or Delaware Water Gap, it comes to my court first. We're the first court that they come to.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you ever had any dangerous situations while you're in court, but you're kind of like a beefy guy. I don't know. have you had any dangerous situations? Anybody try to come at you or anything?
No,
like that?
not yet. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because there's like these TikTok videos or whatever where judges are getting attacked, and a lot of the judges were up in arms and scared, and it's a serious concern. Except I haven't seen anything like that yet. Nobody's jumped over the bench at me.
Well, you know what? Well, usually I know there are many different civil cases that you handle. So there are lots of complicated ones, right? What's the most complicated piece of litigation that you've ever handled?
Well, that I've ever handled.
As judge, I should
as
say.
Judge, yeah.
Yes.
I've only been judge for 4 months.
Okay.
So, I've been a practicing attorney for over 20 years. But as a judge, we deal with a lot of difficult issues, especially in the landlord-tenant realm. On the civil side, it's mostly like contractor disputes, which is, I think, very important, because a lot of people are dissatisfied, or they have a sour taste about them when it comes to contractors. Either they're not responsive, or they don't do what they say they're going to do. And then you get to hear both sides. A lot of times the contractors won't show up, but when the contractors do show up, you see a different perspective. Sometimes it's the person who hires the contractor who's problematic, and everybody's got their own perspective on different problems. So it's actually pretty interesting, but it's also interesting to see how they interact with each other, and sometimes it's just a misunderstanding. So they get to talk it out in court in front of me, and sometimes they're able to work it out, because it's the first time that they ever communicated in a civil way, because that's what the court brings people together in that manner.
So how long were you in law, as far as like being a lawyer?
23 years. I've been practicing for 23 years.
So being a lawyer, is that what initiated you to want to become a judge?
Yeah, that was the start. That was the foundation.
Because you were elected.
I was.
Now some judges are appointed.
Correct.
But you were elected.
Correct.
So you're the judge of the people.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
I'm the judge of the people. I'm community justice. So
Now,
that's the way I look at it.
So what's your community? Where did you come from?
Originally, I was born in Brooklyn, and I lived in Coney Island for the first 15 years of my life. And then my parents wanted to buy a house and really couldn't afford to buy anything down in Brooklyn. So they moved up to the Poconos in 1990, like a lot of other people did. The population exploded here. And I finished out high school at East Stroudsburg High School. Back then, it was before the high school split. So now there's a North Campus and a South Campus. I went to the South Campus, which was the only high school. And I've been living in Delaware Water Gap for almost 25 years now.
Well, we mentioned that you are a judge of the community. So did you do any pro bono work or community service?
I do a lot of
community
service, actually. It's funny, pro bono work is it's also a matter of perception. There's no like a real official thing. There are things that you can be deemed pro bono work, but I do a lot of free legal work for people. And I give free consultations all the time, and I write letters for people all the time. I don't consider it pro bono work. I just consider it paying it back. A lot of people help me, and I've helped them over the years. It's just I think how people pay it forward, exactly. Yeah. So in terms of community service, I'm a volunteer firefighter, certified by Pennsylvania State. I'm I'm at EMT. I volunteer every other Friday for a 12-hour shift on the Bushkill Ambulance Company. I'm a Rotarian. I'm on the Mountaineer Foundation. I'm on the board of directors of the Mountaineer Foundation. We help kids, provide them with programs that the school just doesn't have the funds to do. And yeah, I do a lot of things. I used to be borough council president in Delaware Watergate too. That was also pretty much volunteer. We got paid, but we waived our salary because we were a small borough, and that was a full-time job in itself as well. So yeah. So I'm constantly on the move doing things.
When you were a lawyer, were you a defense attorney or a prosecutor?
I only represented people.
Okay.
I never represented insurance companies. I never represented corporations. I only ever represented people. I was a plaintiff's civil litigator. So I represented only individuals.
Okay, that sounds. Did you get paid for that too?
Yes.
Well, you one of those lawyers.
That's how I paid for the tie and the shirt.
And then they got the lawyers.
And that's how I eat.
As long as I win a case, then you get paid.
Absolutely. Yeah, I never took money from clients. I get a percentage of whatever I get for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of percentage is that? Is that like 30%?
It really depends on the case, the type of case, the type of work, and the jurisdiction. Because some jurisdictions, they have limits on how much people can charge. Some of them don't. Some of them have standards for different types of work that you do. So it really depends.
Right.
Is the answer.
I see you brought your daughter here, so you're definitely the family man.
I am.
Hi, how you doing, young lady? I'm not going to put you on the spot. I'm just saying hi. How are you? But it's glad to see that you're a family man. You're a community man. You're trying to do the best that you can for our community, and we need people like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we really do.
Well, I appreciate our community, and I appreciate, the fact that I live here. I love living here ever since I moved here, and I just want to do what I can to make it better.
Yeah, I think many of us have that story, not being able to afford a home in New York, but the square footage, right, is what we want. We're looking for the acreage, so we came to the Poconos. Now, with you working in as a magisterial district judge, I know you deal with so many people, so many parties and attorneys from diverse backgrounds. Do you think that your upbringing in New York and then coming here helped you to connect with those types of backgrounds?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we live in an area, and especially in my district, where we have a lot of commuters. So a lot of people, they go into the city all day for work, and they come home, and they sleep. They do it again the next day. So they don't spend a lot of time in the community per se. On the weekends, they want to relax and spend time with their family. So I can relate to that because I commuted for a long time as well. My family, my father commuted, and so I understand the problems that they have, and they do have special problems, different problems, because sometimes both mom and dad are commuting, they're working in the city, so kids are home alone. Sometimes they get into trouble, because their parents are not in the house. They're 2 hours away sometimes. So I understand and I sympathize. That doesn't necessarily mean that you get off the hook, for violating the law.
Right from wrong.
But I
right?
make sure that they get a lecture and that they're accountable, because I think being accountable is very important.
Thank you.
So if I ask you what was the toughest case you had, let me rephrase that. The most challenging case that you've ever had.
Honestly, the hard in the 4 months that I've been a judge, the hardest part of my job is determining bail. I find it very difficult for a lot of different reasons, and the biggest reason is that in the state of Pennsylvania, by our constitution, the state constitution, everyone has a right to bail.
Right.
And I don't know, a butcher, it's able to say, the meat by the pound is a certain amount of money, and chicken by the pound is a certain amount of, how much price per pound. Like, how do you determine, how much a person should pay to be in jail or stay out of jail? And I find it very, very problematic and difficult to make those decisions. I make them all the time. However, I weigh them most heavy.
Wow, that's interesting. I thought that there would be just a protocol
or guidelines,
right?
Least, yeah.
So no, it's just not that. Oh wow,
no, not really.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's guidelines and
that.
protocol to deny bail because it's a state right.
Right.
But other than that, it's 100% discretionary.
Yeah.
Whether or not you do cash bail or you do unsecured bail or you release someone on their own recognizance, it's really and from district to district, from judge to judge, you'll get, there's 9 district judges, you'll have 9 different opinions on a same set of circumstances. So it's hard. It's very difficult.
Well, coming from Brooklyn, that kind of helps you a little bit, keeps you impartial.
I don't
do that. Don't say that.
I try to be impartial no matter what. And I don't think, honestly, the amount of money you have in your pocket is determinant of whether or not you should go to jail. So that's one of the issues that I.
Well, I only say that because coming from Brooklyn, you had an opportunity to see multiple classes of people.
That's true.
And by that, you say, well, I know that guy's not making so much money. I give him bail. He can't afford to pay that. He's going to go to jail.
Yeah, but it still needs to fit the crime.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it difficult.
Yeah, it needs to fit the crime.
And sometimes, you take people at their word, you're not giving all the information.
Yeah.
So when I do my bail criteria, or I ask questions to determine bail criteria, for the most part, I'm taking you at your word. I don't know if you have money, you don't have money. I don't know your situation. I don't know if you're employed, you're not employed. I know what you're telling me. I don't know the situation, and it could be, slightly manipulative. So that's why you got to use your judgment. And I think that when the community elects a judge to be their representative, make those judgments, they have the sentiment or the feeling for that community. So, and I like to think I do too.
I think if a guy comes in with a lawyer, I kind of think he got $1 or $2. I would think so. I mean, if he comes in with an appointed lawyer,
you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, in 4 months, I've probably done 120 bail hearings, and I've probably done 2 with attorneys. It's very, very much the minority of those. I mean, they just don't get them. They, for whatever reason, maybe it's too early in the process for them, and it's and even the ones that can't afford attorneys, the public defender's office is so taxed that they don't really have the resources to provide someone with an attorney at the onset before they know they're even eligible for a public defender, that they can't afford an attorney, to provide them with one. So it's a difficult situation. And that's what I find most difficult to make decisions. A lot of times, everything else is pretty much common sense, to me at least. And, you follow the law, and I'm not an advocate for the law. The legislators write the law. I just enforce the law. But I read the law, and, if you make the criteria, you hit the points that the elements of the crime, or the elements of the civil right, or the duty, or the obligation, and it seems pretty common sense to me. Sometimes it's not as clear to the parties involved, because there's emotions involved. People get upset, and and that sometimes it's a little distracting for them. But I try to let everybody speak and everybody be heard, because it's their day in court. It's the only one they're getting, for the most part. And sometimes just getting it off their chest makes them feel better.
Well, not only are you an enforcer of the law, you're also a translator of the law. Because while you're sitting behind a chair, someone says this, they say that. You have one lawyer will say one thing, and another lawyer will say another thing, and now you have to. You have to translate the law.
I'm the arbiter of interpretation.
Right. So what's next for you? I know you just got in this.
I'm like, you just got there.
I know. I'm gonna tell you something.
Let me
tell you something about these politicians. Tell you something about these politicians. This is not the end of the road.
Well, I'm not. Judges are not supposed to be political. I don't consider myself.
But you were elected.
I was elected.
So you had a campaign.
I had to, and technically there's rules for judges, the judicial conduct rules, and I'm not allowed to be political for the tenure of my term, except right before I'm going to be reelected if I choose to run again. It's the only time I get to.
I don't believe this.
Political.
And just to let everyone know, what is your tenure?
6 years.
How long is it? 6 years. Okay.
But to answer your initial question, I got a lot of programs that we're developing now. I have a strong background in children's issues, and I started out doing domestic relations and family law work, and I really enjoyed that. And I think children are underrepresented in our court system, and I'm trying to develop these programs now with regard to the state attendance law, the truancy law, and try to get the kids to be engaged, be active, and stay in school, because education is cumulative. And you miss a few days and you get lost and you get separated from school and you give up, and we find that those are the kids that are probably going to be problematic when they get older. So if we keep them engaged and in school, I think they have their best chance of succeeding. So we're trying to develop now this truancy program, and it's so far in the initial ongoing, it's become pretty successful. We had kids that were missing, 15 days of school in a month, and then I meet with the family, we discuss things, and we have an informal meeting before there's a citation or for violation of the attendance law. And then the next month they have one absence, maybe 2 absences, but they feel badly about it because they want to be in school.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to develop ways to have the kids engaged. We're trying to develop a promotion of attendance program where I have kids with perfect attendance come to the courthouse and we'll have a little pizza party, and then they can wear the robe and bang the gavel and stuff like that to try to give them an incentive to actually go to school. I mean, it should be their own incentive, but it's so hard being a kid now because, like, my daughter tells me, like, she's in the 8th grade. She's like, "Yeah, you don't understand. There's a lot of drama in the 8th grade. There's a lot of drama in all the classes nowadays." So it's just, if you can separate that out, refocus their attention, I think it'll be successful.
I think so as well. And with this program that you have, will you be adding any mental health courses or even sessions?
That there's a dearth of that.
Yeah.
We don't really have the resources for that per se, but we do have liaisons that are provided by the state that have information to give to parents to try to get them the special resources that they need, whatever those resources may be. It may be for a disability, it may be for mental problems that they're having, anger management issues we see a lot of the times, where kids just don't want to be around other kids because they get, they feel hostile, or they having these, certain feelings where, they can't control their actions. But the problem is that they have to go out of county sometimes for these services, and they're just not readily available. And until they become readily available, I can't teach those classes. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a mental health professional. Right. I mean, I lecture on certain these things. I try to, give these kids tools to deal with these things, but what I know is rudimentary. So it's it's the basis, of or a foundation for something that somebody else, a professional, mental health professional, needs to pick up on. But that's one of the things that we have to work on as a community to try to get more mental health professionals into our community. But that's every community. It's not just our community. It's everywhere we have this problem.
Agreed. I know that when it comes to mental health, there aren't enough people, not enough counselors out there. And if they've gone to school here, they've taken their skills elsewhere because of money or whatever it may be. So it's hard to keep them in our communities. But if you're doing it, I guess, for the right reasons, you end up wanting to actually help no matter what, what you're going to get paid. I mean, that's just my opinion.
No, actually, I agree. It's its own reward.
Yeah, absolutely.
But saying that, I understand that doesn't buy a loaf of bread sometimes.
Yeah.
So, and I understand other people have, they like to put gas in the car. So you could appreciate why people make those financial decisions.
Absolutely, for sure. So it seems like the truancy program is going pretty well.
Yeah.
And this is just Monroe County wide? Is it statewide?
It's only in my district.
Okay, it's only in your district. And is it going to be pushed to the other districts?
Well,
have you spoken about it with the other judges?
It turns out to be a very successful. We've only been doing it for 4 months.
Right.
Getting the data together from these kids and talking to these families and the school administrators. I have 5 schools in my district.
Okay.
And trying to coordinate all that. By the end of the school year, I'll have a lot more information that I could share with the other 8 district judges.
Yeah.
And then if they want to implement certain things, I'd be happy to share all my information because it's in everybody's interest. But they don't do this. They don't really do it in every district. They don't. I go to the schools for truancy hearings because I think it's defeating to have the kids actually miss school when to come to my court, take them out of school when the point is to have them in school. So I actually go to them, and I go every Monday. I go to a different one of the 5 schools that I have.
So with all that being said, are you affiliated, or do you deal with the councils, or are you affiliated with, let's say, I don't know, juvenile detention centers and those type of people that deal with that?
I am not, and I don't really know where to get those things. I mean, we don't have a juvenile detention center in this county or either of our neighboring counties. So, to use those, we would have to send the kids far away, further away. And in terms of the mental health professional, I rely on the parents for that. And sometimes I have parents that are busy, like, they're commuting and they have they have 4 or 5 kids, and it's hard for them to dedicate time to missing work and things like that. So sometimes we have, if we have violations, I make it part of we also develop a community service program, because I think that, if the crime happens in the community, they should pay back the community.
Yes.
Absolutely. So part of that is I require that the parents have at least a phone consultation with a mental health provider, an anger management, service provider, or something like that before they come back to my court to report, because sometimes that's the only way they're really going to get it, by me court ordering it, even though technically, I really don't have that authority.
But just playing a little devil's advocate. So you got a kid, you got him in your program, and the kid doesn't have any mental health issues, but it's not working out. What do you do with that kid at that point?
Well, there's a lot of tools that I have in my disposal, but they're limited to finances, and they're limited to incarceration. So I've tried to be as creative as I possibly can, and it's really depends on the circumstances, because if a kid does something wrong, or they say they get in a fight in school, I just had a bunch of these the other day. There was a big fight in school and kids throwing punches, and obviously that's shouldn't be tolerated, and that's not the place for it. And I tell the kids how using your hands is never really the answer to anything. Like, no such thing as fighting words. They have to get a thicker skin, and I understand that some of them have anger management issues, and I require that they have a consultation from a mental health professional, even though some of the parents tell me they're on these waiting lists. But I also try to give them community service in areas where I think that would be helpful to them. Like I'll send them to a church group, and if they belong to a church or they have an affinity for it, sometimes that helps them out. It might help them, even though it's not your mental health service. It might help give them some tools that they don't otherwise have. I send them to Habitat for Humanity, and they have a new store coming out. So they stock shelves, or some of them are going to be working retail, so they'll be interacting with people and they'll learn different skills. So I try to make it so that the punishment is actually beneficial to the community, beneficial to the person. But it's hard to be creative because I'm limited. Either that, or I can fine them or send them to jail for a period of time, depending on what the degree of the crime is, if it's a summary offense or a misdemeanor or even a felony. And I don't know. Sometimes you have to do that, but I don't know if that's helping anyone.
So your program, how long has it been in existence?
I've only been just for 4 months. I'm still developing it.
Oh, okay.
I'm still
just trying to see what your data is as far as the success rate.
Program I just started that as well, and it's also having pretty decent.
Well, we're gonna have to have you back in a few months.
But I'm learning from it too, because
need to see the success.
For example, I had a bunch of kids that got into a fight, and I gave them community service. 3 of them, I think, at the nonprofit organization Habitat for Humanity, and in my order to give them community service, I didn't consider that they would be working together. I didn't think that was going to be an issue.
In my head, I said that
until the one mom's like, well, one girl called, the other girl called, and they put them on together, and that wasn't the best situation for them to both be in. So I was like, now I got to separate this out. So it's development as we go, as we see. It's trial and error, but we're trying to develop the best product for the person to benefit.
Depending upon the resources that you have, there aren't, like you said, there aren't too many resources out here for the children, and we're for truancy, period. I know I just received, I remember receiving a letter, some time ago from my daughter. She was out of school for like 3 days one time, and they were like, listen, we're going to have to go here. You're going to have to, I'm like, whoa, for 3 days? I'm like, Emily, don't ever do that again.
That's why I go to the school and have these informal conferences, because most people don't know what the state attendance law says, the truancy laws say. So I give them all the information. I let them know that they're allowed 10 unexcused absences. They have to write parent notes. They have to be in within 3 days. And that doctor's notes are allowed to be put in at any time. Sometimes they don't know. And if you go on vacation, you have to get special permission from the superintendent. It only can be a certain period of time. And people are like, they come from all over the place. They don't know. I didn't even know. And I got a letter one time too. And I'm like, I was like, what is this all about?
I had to write my
Why
note,
is this-
upload it to
And a lot of
Sapphire.
times,
I was like,
as
no.
parents, you put the note in the
No.
kid's bag and you like hand this in at school. And if they don't hand it in, then you're like, you're on the hook.
Yeah.
And they don't understand it. Like, but I gave it to my son and he's so responsible. Like, well, it's your responsibility. The law doesn't say hand it off to your son as an excuse for violating the law. So, but they walk away with knowledge. They walk away informed.
Good.
And then moving forward, they know how to handle the absences. Because a lot of times they just didn't know that they needed to get a note in by 3 days or it didn't count. So it's like, it's good. And in the beginning of the school year, I'm going to go to the schools and I'm going to give like a 5-minute presentation on attendance law in the state. And I think that'll, resolve a lot of issues too.
And that would be for the parents as well.
Yeah, like at their orientation,
the
their school orientations, and then I'll explain to them because I just think a lot of times they don't know. Either that or they're just, BSing me and tell me they don't know, which could happen too. I didn't know. I get a lot of I didn't know.
Because no
now
one
you
opens
know.
up their mail,
Now
right?
you know.
They just throw it to the side and that's it.
So other than the mail, is there any other way that we can get this information out? Do you have a way that someone can reach you?
Schools send it,
They
email.
have like 4 or 5 ways depending on the school.
Yes.
They email,
They call.
some of them text, they have an attendance monitor
Yes.
that calls and leaves messages.
Yes.
They have a portal
Yes.
where they can send messages to a portal. They have emails. So there's a lot of different ways. And it's really effective because older people sometimes may not use the email or the portals, but they like the phone call. Some people like the tech, no offense.
Seasoned.
Some people like the
Seasoned people. Yeah,
That's right.
That's all.
Experienced people. Experienced people. Same thing with me. Sometimes I have difficulty with the portal,
Mhm.
and I'll get a text message. And it's nice because I had a parent who was getting text messages that his kid wasn't in school, and he's like, I saw him get on the bus. Like, how is he not in school? And if it wasn't for the text messages, you wouldn't know that the kid was getting off the bus and then going to the gas station and hanging out with his friends.
Actually, I was
Wow.
I was asking that question because how did the educators get that information?
In the beginning of the school year, you fill out probably like 400 documents, and one of the documents is all your contact information.
Okay.
So they know and they get everything. So they know your email address, your text message. They know for phone number, for text message purposes. They get yours. They get your spouse. They get every relative in the house.
Yes.
They get grandmas. They know all, because if a kid comes up missing for 3 days, they do welfare checks to make sure that the kid's all right, safe, and whatever. And they need to know other contacts because maybe they're at grandma's house or maybe they went out of the district somewhere else and they hand this information off to children and youth, to the state police, whatever authorities are regulating.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best parts of the school system here is that they do have that contact form. And when the school year starts, my daughter's like, Mom, you have homework. I'm like, uh-oh. So I need to fill out this long form. And then they upload that information to the system. So if I were to take it to a dentist appointment or something and forget to tell her grandmother or something that I did that, she's not in school at the time. So she's like, hey, what's going on? I got a text message or I got a call from the school. I'm like, okay, she's with me. We're at the dentist. She's going in later. But it's a wonderful thing to have. And that's why when parents say that they didn't know, I'm like, you know how many notifications we get? Email, phone, text. And sometimes, email, phone, and text. That's what I get.
Oh yeah, nobody can say that they didn't get the messages because they really go out of their
They
way to
do.
make sure people know.
They do. They do. Now, if you haven't updated your
they want to
information,
make sure that they take the extra precautions and make sure that especially parents know what's going on with their kids.
it's important. Yeah.
Time for that station break.
Yes. Well, Chris, the PA Empowerment Show, we are sponsored by Luxevo Vacations, LUXEVO vacations.com. You can reach Dayanara Rosa at Luxevo Vacations. And just know that we are here at genesisradio.com. Our telephone number is 888-304-4401. And we are located at 383 East Brown Street in East Charlesburg, Pennsylvania.
Terry, got a question for you. August, is it the 17th or is it
17th?
It's the 17th. Okay, so it is August 17th. We got a unity in the community. That means we want everybody to come together. We want everybody to come out. We want them to have a good time. We want the kids to get their face painted. We got live entertainment, music, drones, all kind of good stuff is going to be out there. So we
Mhm.
really like to have the public come out. It's going to be in Dansbury Park, and that's August 17th. Okay,
And I believe
Dansbury
it starts
Park.
at 12, right?
Yeah, I think it starts at 12, but
12 p.m.
show up. They're also going to have a car show. So if you're into cars, we're going to have a nice car show. And just to make it a point of fact, this show that we have right now, this show is spawned from unity in the community. Okay, so that's how this show came into play. And the job here on this show, not so much that we're controversial because we try not to be, but we're here to empower the community with information.
And Jamie, you said you were a Rotarian, so you do have a an event coming up as well.
Yes, yeah.
All right. Did you get that?
The president of my club actually was, I think he was on your show last week.
Yeah.
Al Harris, he asked me to throw a plug in there for our fly-in, drive-in breakfast at the airport in Mount Pocono. It's also going to be at the Mountain Center on May 25th. It's the 27th annual fly-in, drive-in breakfast. There's going to be pancakes. Usually I'm making pancakes. I'm using the pancake line. And they also have.
Whatever this man said.
They have.
Whatever this man
I heard
said.
he's making pancakes.
I do. I usually make pancakes.
I'm making waffles.
And we get. I'm making. I don't know about this. This lady.
That sounds like a challenge.
I don't know about this lady at the shop right.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't
That
know.
sounds
But we gotta have
I need
a
to
lot
hit
of
up
activities
Tracy
for the kids.
Rosen.
There's gonna be a car show. There's gonna be music, and there's gonna be inflatables, all sorts of stuff. It's gonna be fun. We usually get a really big turnout. And it's up in Mount Pocono at the Mountain Center.
Good.
Yeah.
I hope everybody that can attend will attend. That would be kind of good for the community.
And come out to see us because Kendall and I will be there as well. I think I'll be making pancakes as well, or I'll just give them a syrup. I don't know. I hope not.
Yeah, we usually set up like 5 different pancake griddles.
Uh-huh.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Sophia, how's your dad pancakes? She took
All
she
right.
took a minute to answer that, right?
She knows.
She
She knows.
hesitated on that.
Think before you speak.
Yeah. So what does the
Smart
judge do
girl.
when he's not being a judge?
Like I said, I do a lot of volunteer work, but I spend a lot of time with my family too. I have 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Sophia is my youngest, 14, and then I have 2 older sons. So, we'll go out to dinner or we'll hang out. And other than that, I don't have a lot of downtime. So
I bet.
even when I'm working ambulance, I work at 6 at night till 6 in the morning on Saturday, and then I sleep and then hang out with the family. But otherwise, yeah, I'm also still working in private practice too, so I do that on the weekends.
Well, kudos to you.
Yeah.
You wear many hats, and you still have time for your family. So that is, I take my hat off to you.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
What office are
family
you running
first.
for?
I'm not. I'm totally happy being a judge. I'm happy doing what I can for my community. I think we're getting really good results.
Uh-huh.
I strongly believe in community justice. I think that's what we're doing in my court.
And do you see it in our community? Justice?
Do I see it?
Yeah, justice for all.
I think we do. I think we do have justice for all.
All right.
And I think I might be a gatekeeper to make sure that stays justice for all.
I think so
Love that.
too.
And I really and I think that people, on both sides of any party or both sides of the law in my court recognize that.
Right.
Because I don't tolerate any sort of prejudice. I don't tolerate intolerance.
Right.
So it's just and it's blatantly clear and apparent. And I think for the most part, I haven't run into anyone who crossed the line in any way. So I'm really proud of our community in that regard because it's not like that everywhere.
Show up in your courtroom, you're a straight shooter, but you're impartial.
Absolutely.
It's
Always.
fair.
Always.
Always.
That's
Tough,
what we need.
but fair.
Tough
but
but fair.
I like that. All right.
And you stick to the letter of the law.
I do.
And that goes for everyone.
Judges
We're a
that
diverse
don't,
community.
they advocate, and they should be legislators, not judges. 'Cause
Right.
judges should, even if you don't agree with the law, and some of the laws I have questions about myself,
Mhm.
but I still follow.
Because
Well,
you're there to
you know.
enforce them.
That's it, because that's my job. And
Yes.
people rely on that.
Yeah.
They want to go to a court and they want to know that, look, I'm supposed to stop at this stop sign. The judge is going to say, look, even though I don't like the stop sign being there, it may not work there, or it's a better place for it, you have to stop at that stop sign.
Mhm.
And every time you're going to be accountable for stopping at that stop sign when you
Yeah.
come into my court. Because that's the law. I didn't make it, but I have to enforce
You ready for a tough one?
it. Ooh.
Oof.
Do it tough already.
Mhm.
Sure, I'm ready.
No,
Yeah,
you're in the
Hit
courtroom.
me.
Police officers.
Yes.
How many police officers had you have to
I even
slap
as
on the wrist if they said?
Reprimand.
reprimand. I haven't reprimanded any police officers. It's not my job to reprimand.
Hmm.
That's a supervisor's job. What I do is I make sure that they're also following the law. If they bring charges against someone, I make sure that the charges are appropriate and fair, and that they're warranted. And that's really all I can do.
Yeah.
I mean, but honestly, I deal with a lot of state police, the state troopers, and I deal with the regional police officers in Delaware Water Gap and Stroud Regional and Pocono Mountain Regional. When I do overnight for the whole county, and I'm the only judge in the county that does overnights and emergency work, and I have a great deal of respect for them.
Mhm.
I think they do a wonderful job. I think their job is very difficult.
Mhm.
I give them a lot of support and credit because, quite honestly, I grew up in a time where, my parents, like, if you're ever in trouble and you ever have a problem, you go see a police officer, they're going to help you out. And I think it's somewhere along the way, as time passed on, that got skewed a little bit. And it might be, perception. It might also because, there are good and bad and everywhere, good, bad police officers. But I've only seen good police officers. Maybe they keep the bad ones out of my court. But I give them the benefit of the doubt until they've proven otherwise. And then,
That's all you can do.
that's all you can do.
Mhm.
But I want to be able to instill confidence and respect into our police officers because they keep our community safe.
Yeah.
We need them and they need us. They need us to follow the laws. And when we don't, we get out of line, they ring us back in. And I'll tell you what, I have traffic day on Tuesdays, and they'll write up for all sorts of traffic violations, failed inspection sticker, registration. And if people fix the problems, their underlying issues, the police officers are really fair with not offering testimony against them and letting the charges go because they just want them to comply with the law.
Mhm.
So, I mean, they could be tough. They don't have to be tough.
I agree with that.
Well,
So
without-
they're fair
without-
as well. And like I said, I really appreciate a lot of our officers.
Well, without rules and regulations, the law, then we would be living in a world of anarchy,
Absolutely.
and that would be a lot worse.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And a lot, if we're overly tough on police when we don't need to be, because we have good police officers, and we shouldn't have to hold them accountable for the actions of some of the bad ones that we hear about. They get disgruntled and they get, they lose, it's bad for them around, and they don't want to enforce the law. They're like, what do we care about it? Do whatever you want because we're not going to get treated with respect. We're not going to be treated fairly. In my court, they were treated with respect and they're treated fairly.
You just talking about police officers?
Just
or
as
you
the
talking about black
defendants
people?
are everybody.
Oh.
Everybody.
No, it sounded like
Just
you were
as
talking about black
defendants
people.
are everyone. No, that's not like I talk about everyone.
Yeah.
But no, I treat everyone with respect,
Uh-huh.
and everybody gets a title.
Right.
So if you're a trooper, you're a trooper. If you don't even have a title, you're Mr. or Mrs. or Miss. So
Yeah,
everybody
what I
gets
meant by
treated
that
with
was
respect.
getting the bad rap when you're talking about police. It's like the 5% are the bad ones. So if you look at the police department, the 5% of them, okay, but that's what most people view, and that's what's in most people's eye. That's what
Yep.
they see. And when I said about black, you got that 5% that's the bad apples,
Mhm.
but that's what everyone sees.
I agree.
And then they
And they're not the representatives.
Right.
They should represent everyone. And I
bad news
totally
travels
agree with you.
fast.
and like the police officers, they get that
Yeah.
bad rap, but people look at the police officers like they're monolithic.
Mhm.
They're all the same, and we know that's not true.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's why it's so important to educate people, to inform people, and to make people interact with one another. Because if you've never met a police officer, you've never met a state trooper, you might have this preconceived notion of what it would be like because of what you hear in the news or the bad instances you hear. And you might be scared. But you know what? They're people just like us. They're doing their job.
Yes.
You're doing your job. Talk to them for 5 minutes and you'll understand, hey, this guy's not so bad. You know what I mean? He's here to help us. He's here to protect us.
Agreed.
So that's what I try to instill in my court.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you guys do here,
Yeah.
empowerment. I empower people in my court too.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, well, I guess we've been in here about an hour.
7:02. Not
Yeah,
bad.
it sounds like we've been here for about an hour. So we're gonna wrap this up a little bit. Again, my name is Kendall Stevenson, and this is Shaquana Terry.
Hi.
I'm the host, and she is the co-host.
Yes.
We've had Judge Levy, Levy. I want to make sure Levy. You got to make sure I pronounce the young man's name properly. And we have his daughter here. Hi, Sophia. Just to shout her out a little bit. And again, thank you, Teresa, for the pancakes. So this is Kendall Stevenson, GenesisRadio.com. We are the Empowerment Show. Peace. We are out.
We are out.
Thank you for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel.